This is the chairman of Freedom Nation, Farouk Hunter. Assalamu alaikum, uhuru. And once again, back, just want to have a quick conversation about a historical thing that's happening right now in the Freedom Nation. It is now March 2022, and what I am deeming as historic is the event that has created the Freedom Village, Georgia 1, a black-owned village made up of 70-plus families that are currently in the stage of building out their homes and preparing the land for their occupation, has just filed its condominium declaration according to the Georgia Condominium Act. Now, where that might seem simple, it is not. Let me back up a little bit and explain to you exactly the significance of what's going on at this moment. First of all, in the beginning, as far as the idea of building a black-owned town, there are multiple steps that have to occur in order for that to come to a realization. In order to create a truly advanced as well as prosperous town, you have to first start out with acquisition and then legality. This is according to the book, The Principles of Freedom, by which we found our founding principles inside of at the Freedom Nation. When we acquired the property, it was myself and my sister and two brothers who made up the board of the Freedom Nation. We used our own independent monies that we raised by training ourselves how to be software developers, project managers, business analysts, and work in jobs that provided six-figure incomes. That we did ourselves. From a very poor background, we came. Our parents, my father, never got a check in any particular month from a job that superseded $1,500. However, in our lifetime, through his motivation and his guidance, we were able to educate ourselves and then create the finances necessary to purchase 205 acres of land inside of Hancock County, Georgia. A search of which took us 2.5 years to identify the proper place to actually go in and find. And then after purchasing that land, we're able to learn and educate ourselves on the ways to segment it and create it into a perfect space to build a black-owned town. From there, we followed the legality of the state of Georgia to the letter. We looked up the Condominium Act and decided on the legal structure of a land condominium. We definitely preferred that over the concept of developing a trust. A trust does not give you a legal framework by which you can then manage multiple individuals and families and protect their interests inside of a piece of land. It's great as a way to pass land and property back and forth to your lineage and other people. It's nice and clean. However, it doesn't give the structure of an association. It does not give the structure of a council as a natural element of the law in the state. The Condominium Act did. We took the land according to the Condominium Act and officiated a survey through an official surveyor who was licensed in the state of Georgia to produce a survey to break that land down into 1.25 acre lots. From those 1.25 acre lots, we then sold those lots individually using a leasing agreement. And the reason we used a lease purchase agreement, actually, a leasing agreement with an option to purchase, was because it was a clean, no interest way for us to put the land in the hands of Freedom citizens without over indebting them or creating a situation by which they would have been in harm's way, meaning that we would have had to overtax them, we would have had to give them undue charges and fees. And if we went to try to take the land back from someone who had either changed their mind or come to a situation where they no longer could pay for the land, we would then have the right and the abilities to refund their money, not because we were obligated, but because it was the right thing to do, to get rid and waive of any late fees, and then bring that person on board or repurpose the land to someone else who was interested in purchasing and was an authorized and approved and active freedom citizen. After that, we took that land and we created a condominium declaration. Now, the condominium declaration is no joke. I'll tell you that it's a deep piece of documentation because Georgia law says very clearly that every person who lives in the condominium has to follow the rules of the association. That's not a small statement. That is from the highest level of government for which oversees this structure. In the United States of America, the state is the absolute highest authority. We have the federal government, but the federal government cannot create a law that's not ratified by the governor of that state. So in our state, in Georgia, having a law that has been ratified, that then gives authority to another structure, as long as that structure does not go outside of the terms of the legality of the state and its other laws, then that structure must be obeyed by those people who inhabit that space. So very legally, we created a environment that's black owned, and now the rules are set by black people who live there. And today we did the final stroke on that element. That was taking in the declaration and passing the land from the 4 purchasers who purchased it originally and legally passing it over to the village council. And the village council is now under development by the citizens, and they are determining how people vote. They are determining exactly what positions are held, what people actually agree on, don't agree on, what they have to vote on, don't vote on, what's the process for all the governmental structures that they do. And they act as a single representation back out to all legal authorities about what happens on that property. And here's the kick. The whole property still remains private. Entry is private. Security is private. Utilities are private. Everything from what went into the ground to what can go above the ground is determined within the constructs of the law, in the zoning laws of the county, the laws of the state, and the laws of the association, which is managed now by the village council upon its ratification and election from the freedom citizens that occupy Freedom Village, Georgia 1 as members of the Freedom Georgia 1 condominium. That's a legal structure. Unlike many movements that we sometimes find ourselves a part of, even though we don't agree with several things that are being done, several laws, several constructs that are put together in order to determine our life that turn out very bad for African Americans. We have utilized that structure to create this legal structure so that it stands. And that's very important. To tear down this legal structure, you'd have to tear down the legal structure of the state itself. And that I don't foresee happening anytime soon. This is historical in the sense that we've done this in modern times, your time, your era, with a level of complexity that wasn't in existence when the last black towns were built. When Greenwood was built, Black Wall Street, when many of the other 207 black towns were built in the early 1900s, late 1800s, there were no zoning laws. There were no laws in the country that determined what you could and could not build anywhere. There was a lot more freedom, a lot less complexity to executing what we've done. But I can tell you with absolution, we've done it. And that's a beautiful thing. And we have to earmark that. To give you a little, I love sharing my screen. So just a little piece of that and what that looks like. This is the condominium declaration. This is the law that's been put in place in order to manage every single facet, every angle of our interactions inside Freedom Village, Georgia. This law was created by us, for us, according to our standards and our agreements. And this law is reenacted, reinforced, doubled down by the state of Georgia, by its legal structure, and by its court systems, its policing systems, and elsewise. I'm not saying that I wholeheartedly believe in their ability to make sure that we maintain our interests, but we have been able to use the tool in order to find a way to create our own self-determination. And that is extremely unique and has taken a lot of work, quite a bit. We still got a lot of work to do. We still have to make sure that the village council is voted. The association, as well as the management company, put in place, which is another great milestone, that we have Genius Code Support Services as a tech-enabled management service that is a part of the Freedom Nation, charged with servicing the council and executing the will of the people in a professional manner. Has the tools already in place, the technology to allow for voting, to allow for validation of an individual prior to making a vote on the council. We have taken leaps that have not even been done in the society itself. Because to have a black-owned town does not mean that it's just a bunch of people separating themselves. It means that it's a place where we showcase the excellence of who we are. And that showcase is on display for the world to understand that we are better off when we manage ourselves. Simply put. So this video, I hope not too long, was meant only to introduce you or remind you of the steps that we've taken to get to this point. We still have many things to do. There are a lot of people who would like to believe that they can just show up at a town, purchase a small lot, or purchase a little piece of property, and then boom, start living tomorrow. The jobs will be there. Everything else will be there. That's just not real. It took 6 years to get here. No, I apologize. It didn't take 6 years to get here. It took 8, almost 9. And this is at the point where we are ready now, this year, to start building homes, laying down our pipe work. We've already started laying fiber optic lines. We want to start laying down our electrical conduits. The systems, the legality, the structures, the legal instruments that are necessary to make that happen are some in place and some being developed. Some of them will come exclusively out of the village council itself. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But I remind you that there's hard work ahead and that there was hard work behind. And only by continuing on this path of exasperating ourselves in the effort for self-determination will we realize our dream of the black town. It is not a fairy tale. It is not something to be established at the pulpit. The pulpit is a beautiful space. Those of us who are leaders of the pulpit, they bring people to this space mentally. They help them to escape the madness and the crazy thoughts that have been inseminated in us over time by generations of hardship, solicitation, and advertisement through multiple vehicles. But once you arrive, you got to go to work. And the work ain't easy, but it's really worth it. And this is the work that establishes the black towns of the future. And I am so happy to announce this milestone and to let you know the things that are necessary to get there. The Freedom Nation is set as much as it can to build a professional, proper, legal structure in such a way that establishes us in a space of absolute self-determination over our daily life, our future, our economic growth, and the overall peace and prosperity of our people. Soon, all of our villagers will receive their individual deeds that come as an offset of the master deed. The condominium declaration is considered by Georgia law the master deed. And from that, you will have your sub deed. And that sub deed will then allow you access to the property. The only way to get into our space is by being a Freedom Citizen. Becoming a Freedom Citizen is a process that requires that one of our citizens sponsor you and basically make a statement to say, I'm happy to have you as a neighbor. I implore you to apply. I implore you to become a citizen of Freedom Nation and join us in this work. And for those of us who are already Freedom Nation citizens, I implore you to keep up the good work. Keep doing what's necessary in order to be able to consistently invest in your establishment in this space. Our next step is to deal with the purchase of homes. As a final message inside of this message, I'm going to say this. I am heavily vested in identifying ways to reduce the cost of owning a home in the Freedom Village, to reduce the amount of time necessary to build it, and to reduce the entry level of finance necessary to get into that building. In order to do so, in order to provide those mechanisms, we have to provide mechanisms of finance. Finance, as we have discovered, is one of the single most significant elements to being able to build a town. Now, it doesn't have to be an abundance of money that came from somewhere. We're very intelligent people. It can simply be a very creative way by which to acquire the money and to place the funds against the outcomes that we want. It's not a bunch of money we want. What we want is the ability to acquire resources, to have our homes, to live well, to not have worries. It so happens that money is a mechanism by which allows us to do it. So financing becomes important, not as a means by which just to acquire more money, but by a means to do more. In most of our traditional spaces, the bank, at least above ground, is segmented from the people and the instruments that actually do the work. In our case, and this requires the bank to have a lot of limitations and a lot of restrictions, and they have to be certified in many different ways. However, if a bank is not a bank, doesn't call itself a bank, it is an independent company that provides instruments of finance of a product for which it provides, then it doesn't have to go through that hoopla. We can instead vest our interests and our time and our resources in just building up more creative ways to provide high quality products for our citizens, which is what the Freedom Nation is deeply involved in now. In the coming weeks, we will offer back to our citizens a way to purchase your home at a very low price to start. We'll be offering 20-year financing within our own organization and allow you to pay down as little as 5% to start the purchase of your house. And the only approval you'll need is that you are an active Freedom Nation citizen. Active meaning you have a Freedom Nation citizen teaming agreement that is active, signed, and executed. That gives us the ability to work with you in this way. And second, that you are current on your dues, which are very inexpensive. $25 a month is pretty much at this point a 2-piece chicken meal with 5 chicken wings attached to it. So in that essence, I'm going to end this conversation. This is the chairman of Freedom Nation. I'm very proud today to give you the announcements that I've given you. I'm very proud that we've reached these milestones. And I am so happy to be at a space where we are laser focused holistically on building homes and realizing those spaces and moving people into our villages who already own the land and manage the village through every legal structure that is possible and appropriate.